Oh, hey everyone, Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's in the Do, where it's our show where we review things in the world of television. Sometimes we do episode by episode reviews of currently on our show, or doing these seasonal reviews, which once in a blue moon, a show comes out. I like it a lot. And then I decide, you know what, I'm going to review it. Want to talk about it for a little bit. Today we're reviewing Netflix's Avatar, The Last Airbender, which just came out on Netflix, I want to say about a few weeks ago from this posting, or at least when this was being recorded, because I been a little bit busy to talk about it, but you know, it's still on my mind, it's still percolating, and you know, it's been a very interesting subject. I feel like it's the end of a trilogy of adaptations for me in my life. I had the One Piece adaptation, I had the Percy Jackson TV adaptation. There were the movie adaptations, but now we had the TV, and now the Avatar live action adaptation. So we quite a little bit in terms of the adaptation field. There was obviously some other ones like Yu Yu Hakusho or stuff like that came in between One Piece and then even way before that. But for me, that was like the one. This was like the golden period of like we've had three separate adaptations from three very beloved works. One from an anime, one from a book, and one from an animated series. And most people would agree that probably One Piece was the better one. And I do hold testament to that. I watched Percy not that long ago, and I thought that was really, really good. I have no personal sentiment to the books because I never read them. I just watched the movies, which you know, say la vie on that one. Whether you want to yell at me or not, you know, it is what it is on that part. And then you had this where, for so many years, for more than a decade, I had people yell at me for calling myself a fan of certain criteria, certain genres, and whenever I mentioned, I never watched Avatar: The Last Airbender in terms of the animated series, they would yell at me as like, it is literally the one show that I think almost everyone in my friend group, that my partner, that everyone that I talk to about just the stuff I talk about, it's the one show that everyone's watched, and I'm just unanimously surprised by that, of how much of a cultural impact Avatar: The Last Airbender has done for the people of my generation, where we were the prime targets back then. I missed the boat. I never got into it. I did probably saw some of the promos for the last episodes. That's about the same with Korra. But it was, for me at the time, I never got into that sort of thing. I never really got hooked into that. It wasn't something that I purposely chose. It was just that I just never got into it. My taste in shows were different back then. This came out in it was, I think, one of the precursors of like kind of how the 2010s were, where like 2010s we had a lot of cartoons that were like very much not just the cartoony aspect, was also the serialized aspect, but there was a consistent story. There was a story being told. And I think the Avatar: The Last Airbender was one of the rare ones that actually was telling a story week to week. We were progressing for that story. And at the same time, you know, we still had breaks to like do a little cartoon stuff, like, you know, just take a sidestep somewhere else and, you know, get to have fun with that. And then the live action movie came out, and oh my god, people clamored. I was like, horrible, horrible, and I watched it in theaters. And I thought it was okay at the time because I never watched the show, and for many years that have haunted me until last year / this year, my partner finally got me to say, you know what, okay, fine, let's do this. I bought the complete collection literally 3 years ago. That's how long it's been stewing in the pot for me to finally watch this. But yeah, no. So in terms of my backlog, I've only completed the first season and then a half season 2, or all book 1, half of book 2. That's where I'm at right now, and I at least want to finish book 1 going into season 1 of the Netflix show, and I was gonna just see how it compares, you know. But keep in mind that, you know, when it comes to these sort of things, you know, they're adaptations. This is not a one-to-one recreation. That's not what it is, and plus, it's impossible to do so. Something you write, something you create in a different medium, it is almost next to unlikely for that to be a straightforward adaptation. Things have changed. The time period you wrote that, well, it's been a lot of time has happened. Some things have changed. Some of the elements that, you know, were in the making of that product back when it was being made is different from the ecosystem we currently live right now. You know, some things have to be modernized, some things have to be changed over, and, you know, maybe you come up with a brand new idea, you want to put that in. So relatively speaking, I knew going into this show that this was not going to be a 100% faithful adaptation to the source material. It wasn't going to be. And this came out at a very interesting time period of the trilogy where, like, the One Piece Netflix show, which got the blessing of the series creator himself, it's something that doesn't really happen when it comes to anime to live action, because a lot of the creators just dismiss it because it's the Hollywood effect where, like, they're going to go big, they're going to forget about the story, they're just going to be, the characters are going to kind of look like the characters from the anime and kind of do their own thing. This was the one case where, like, yeah, they don't look exactly alike, but they embody the spirit. It was a very much a really honorable adaptation that the creator actually did sign off on, and that was a hit. Then you have Percy Jackson, where you had the original author to come and be an EP, come be a showrunner to an extent, kind of really, like, be aware that, like, yeah, he wrote those books almost 2 decades ago. It's been a long time. It's a lot of things have changed in the world, and he was understood full of that. And this was one of the rare cases where, like, yeah, the creators were involved. I'm not talking about the Avatar show. They were involved from the beginning, but things changed. They left the project. They let the new blood kind of take over, and relatively speaking, you know, depending on who you ask, some people are going to say they did a good job. Some people, they said they did a bad job. Of the trilogy right now, this is the mixed bag. Where, like, yeah, a lot of people said that this show, it's just not, once again, they screwed it up. This is not where the event. Some people say they did a good job. For me, I'm going to fall squarely in that good category. I don't think it's the best adaptation I've ever seen. Again, maybe it's because I just watched the animated stuff, so I kind of know where things are expected to be. So as much as I really like the cast, I like this, you know, the kind of the stick to the points of, like, what the story is. Some of the deviations I like, some of the deviations I didn't like. Just importantly, again, I am not the biggest fan, to be honest with you. I really do like the show in terms of the animated stuff, and I do like this adaptation. It's just, for me, like, you know, I am not the hardcore fan who is, like, really, like, gatekeeping this sort of thing. Like, it's got to fulfill my criteria, because, again, this is not going to be that show. It's not. If you're going into this show thinking that this is going to be the live action version of the anime show, then you're surely mistaken. That's not the case right there. It's not. What the creators of this show does do is they honor the story as best they could, as well as change a little bit of things. So, again, some for the better, some not for the better. I don't think they made a horrible choice, but I do admit that, you know, this being on Netflix, this being with a higher budget value, this having some really cool actors embodying these roles, you know, I can safely say on that front alone, they've already exceeded the M. Night Shyamalan version by a milestone. Obviously, the VFX were so much more better than the actual movie. Again, there's a lot of things to like about the show, and there's a lot of things where, like, I think they could do better. And obviously, when I get to spoilers, we'll talk more about that. But at least for me right now, just for the landscape of it, I do enjoy Avatar: The Last Airbender by Netflix. I don't think it's a true adaptation. It is not going to be a true adaptation. It never was planned to be a true adaptation. But what they did was they honored the story. They did the absolute highest best they can do to acknowledge that story, but at the same time, they were going to try and do something differently with this. And I think they did achieve that. I think that was the original goal. Hopefully, the lessons they learned from this season will help them guide between 2 and 3, which have already been confirmed at the time of this recording. So we are going to continue the story down the road, which I'm excited for, because, you know, I love seeing complete story. I love seeing the Harry Potter effect, where, like, the actors, they know what they're getting into. They know, like, oh, we have so many more things to adapt, so many more things to, like, bring to live action. Because same with Percy Jackson, where for so many years, like, we've seen Lightning Thief, we've seen Sea of Monsters, but we never see Titan's Curse. Hopefully we'll get to that. Same with Avatar. We've only seen the first book in live action now twice. We've seen, again, 2 different interpretations, but we've seen kind of the same beat to beat to an extent. Now we get the opportunity to see what does a book 2 live action look like? What does a book 3 live action look like? That's what I'm more excited for. But I feel like they did such a good job in terms of laying the groundwork for the show at the cost of some of the adaptation materials, but hopefully that will all pay off when we do come back later down the road for season 2 and then season 3, whenever that ends up being. But for now, you know, in my non-spoiler opinion, I would recommend the show. If you are a fan of the original, definitely check it out. Get your own criteria and get your own opinion about it. If you are a newbie, you have no idea, It's an 8 hour binge. It's literally a fun 1 day binge if you want to pursue that. It definitely will be interesting, and maybe and again, Netflix has both the animated stuff and the live action stuff, so you can check them both out on the same platform and do a little comparison for yourself. So for me, I would recommend it on that logic. But to now get into spoilers again, if you haven't seen Avatar: The Last Airbender on Netflix, the live action show, season 1, you will be spoiled. So please, if you haven't watched it yet, you actually want to be, surprised, and you actually want to watch it, for yourself, please go watch it ahead. I will be spoiling some stuff about it. But going into it, again, I think the best thing that I feel like we've gotten off these recent adaptations that they know how to cast these actors. They know what makes Aang Aang, what makes Katara, what makes Zuko, what makes Ozai. And for me personally speaking, yeah, I think they cast everyone pretty well. Again, only having very limited knowledge to what the first half of book 2 leaves off of, just where I know of those characters. And again, remember, this is not going to be like, I don't know any of their names. I apologize, but the actor who plays Aang, I was going to say the thing from the last Airbender movie. I apologize. Who plays Aang was never going to be an exact 1-to-1 to what the animated voice actor did for Aang. That was never going to be the case. He has to obviously embody the spirit of Aang, but at the same time, he's allowed to kind of take some leeway. It's kind of like do his own spin on it. That's the point. Like, you have multiple people playing Batman, but at the core, they are Batman, but like their takes, their actions, their wordings, they're all different. So, and there was a good interview that came out during the premiere where like Zuko's voice actor, he talked to now the current live action actor, even referring to the previous live action actor who played him in the movie. They've all acknowledged, yeah, we've all played Zuko, and there will probably be more interpretations of Zuko, whether that is another voice actor or another crack at a live action trilogy. Again, whatever the case might be, there will probably be more people playing Zuko, and everyone embodied the spirit in their own way. Again, it's not going to be like every version is going to be the same Zuko. It's going to be something a little bit different because you got to keep the character interesting and keep the character engaged. And like, yes, we know that what the original source material did is what we love about it. But at the same time, when you have a certain IP, which Avatar: The Last Airbender is now a big IP, you're going to have iterations. Like, you're going to have new creators, new writers come on board and kind of, obviously acknowledge where they came from, but at the same time, they're trying to modernize, they're trying to like, bring something different so that it's not like, oh, okay, it's not going to be the same beat to beat. Because as much as a lot of people would probably like a beat to beat version of a show or an adaptation of something they loved before, it can get a little bit boring because then like, oh, well, this thing does it better than this one. It's like, I think everything can coexist on its own, but like at the same time, you're gonna have to like have that right balance. And I feel like that's what this show does with its characters from its actor, where like everyone is, I can feel the energy from the animated show. I can feel everyone's got a little bit of that core of the animated stuff in them. But again, they're trying to do their own thing. Katara from the animated stuff is not the same one as the live action one. Sokka, remarkably very close. I think of all the actors and, he is arguably the closest one to all of them, in my opinion. He is the closest one. And it's just actually insane where I binged it all with my friends and my partner on the couple days after the release. And we were just so shocked of how close Sokka's live action actor's voice was to the anime stuff. It was so similar. Like, obviously it was different, but like you felt the energy being the same. It's like, it was one of those rare casts where like, that was perfect. That was genius. That was like, they fucking nailed it. Apologies for my language. But they nailed it. They got it done. They found the right actor for that role. And again, everyone just did their own takes on the character. Iron, I think I'm pronouncing his name right. I love Park Sun-young. I think he's a fantastic comedic actor, and he, is not the same one from the anime show. But again, the spirit is there. He is Iron. He's doing his own take on Iron, and it works for this take on the character, this take on the world. It works out, undoubtedly speaking. I don't quite think that the as much as I do feel there is a chemistry between the characters, again, comparing to like the length of the animated show to the length of the Netflix show, I don't quite think certain moments were earned at the end. I feel like some things were a little bit like, okay, you're reaching a little bit too much here. Like, there's certain things we're like, we're not there yet. We're kind of there, getting there, but we're not at this one. We're not there. That you should have waited for that moment till like season 2 or something like that. I don't feel like you guys have properly gotten there yet. And maybe because like 8 episodes is different from 20, even though the runtime's like almost identical to each other. Like the way that it's paced, the way that they vibe off each other. We're like, yeah, the core team Avatar, they do have their own chemistry. They do have their own dynamic going. It's not an immediate thing. It takes obviously a while to build up for it. It's not like a 1, 2, 3 sort of thing. But definitely it is something that takes a little bit of time to get into. But I don't quite think they earn certain things by the end of it. Again, not to say anything bad about those characters. I'm just saying like the overall relationship, I don't think they've quite nailed everything point on point just quite yet to what they were trying to establish at the end of season 1. But speaking of Team Avatar, you have like obviously Team Fire Kingdom, where you have they expanding the roles of Ozai and Azula, who in season 1 they were present, but they were like not fully there yet. They were like teasing them more for bigger stuff down the road. And as much as that would have been like a cool thing to explore in terms of like trying to like get more things together. And I do think they did a really good job on certain things. I don't think everything was entirely perfect. There was definitely a lot of more original material to be written to give Ozai more involvement, because you have such a great actor with Daniel Kim playing the villain. Which again, he's just coming off the meme success of The Good Doctor, and I'm like, yeah, this guy's perfect. He's ready to be a baddie. He's ready to be a bad guy for a few years. And I think for me personally speaking, he is not trying to be the next Darth Vader. He's not trying to be the next Thanos. He is an intimidating foe. He does embody the voice, the stature of Ozai, but he's not trying to like be anything like that. And I feel like I respect that. Don't make him too over the top just quite yet. I don't think so. Again, I have no idea where the character's going to go and my personal watching of the second half of the show, of the animated show. So I could be wrong where I'm facing with that, but at least he's reserving himself. He's very much like kind of in a different position in terms of like as the villain front, so to speak. He's definitely got his own agenda, but some things are quite a little bit different. Like there's definitely different moves you got to take over there to make it sort. Azula's role, again, I do understand the popularity of the character. I do understand that they were trying to get her introduced a little bit early. I feel like that would have been the one case where like I think maybe like the way they kind of written her up to like be more like she was always there type of feelings from the first season before her true appearance in season 2. I feel like that was more like we were catering to what the fans would want. I feel like the casting was there. I think for me, I did like that interpretation of the character. But we didn't get to see much of her rest of her friends. Again, like there's only so much of the bandwidth you could share with different actors. But definitely if we had to cut her out, I wouldn't have been against it. I felt like they could have made the story work without her. Definitely save her for a much more bigger appearance for season 2. But that's near here than there right now. So again, not to say anything bad about it. That's just the one thing about it. I feel like there should have been more of like, if we're really going to introduce her more prominently earlier on, maybe get a few more scenes, especially with her and Zuko. I don't think personally we got enough of them. Maybe I could be completely wrong about that one. But I will say about they nailed Zuko and Iron's, dynamic, very much so. Again, it's not a straightforward adaptation from the animated show, but it definitely is trying to be its own thing. It is a different way, a different showmanship of respect and all that sort. And they just work with each other. They work very well next to each other on that front that I may say about that. Other than that, going into like, just into the actual story beats, I think the things I would appreciate, and my friend like literally like exploded in terms of like happiness when he saw was the genocide of the Airbenders. And I'm just like, okay, it's not a straightforward adaptation. They definitely did something different. Showcasing it definitely kind of showcases the stakes that Aang is up against when he does come out of the ice ball 100 years into the future. Definitely there is a bigger, calamity of the consequences of what they're facing right now. I definitely think that was a very well done scene. I think that was very well executed. other than that, obviously, they're gonna add more things from their brains instead of what was in the original. Like, for example, they cobble up some of the story arcs together, to make it all work, to make it more coherent. Which again, it kind of makes sense. I remember when the One Piece Netflix show was happening, they were acknowledged like, yeah, certain things just can't work in the anime length. We have to kind of combine things, switch things around, kind of like make everything a little bit more different to make everything kind of sew in together. Which again, it makes sense on paper. It really does, and it works well on the screen. It definitely makes for much more of a coherent story, in my opinion. It definitely makes everything more tighter, definitely more, resoundful. It only thing that's sad to say is that again, I feel like this is the one case where like I don't think you could have given Avatar 13 episodes. I feel like that would have been way too much for the budget, but I think 10 would have been more suitable. I think there's a lot of side stuff that, as much people like, I think one of the critiques is, like when you're coming from a cartoon to a live action stuff, people just assume the filler stuff is, oh, we could just cut that out. We'll just get to the important part. Well, like, yeah, I do. Yeah, there is a point to like, is there actual story progression? No, but you're lore building. You're building out this world. You're giving more and more elements to that. At the same time, you're also getting more character development between them. Not character development in the sake of like, Aang learned a new trait this week, but like you feel the connection between the main characters grow because they're spending more time together. We're seeing them physically have more adventures together. I know there was in between one of the episodes, there was an adventure that we never got to see, whether or not it was a 5-minute thing or whether or not it was a smaller, mini adventure. It doesn't matter. I would have liked to see that because that would have just been spending more time with these characters. There was an entire episode where obviously again it was important for Aang's story development for his character, but like he wasn't with Katara or Sokka. He wasn't with them for an episode. And when you have 8 episodes, it's not really a good sign. You're trying to make this group feel like more like not like a family, yeah, but like more like, yeah, we're a unit, we're a team. We gotta build that commodity between us, and I don't quite think they were able to like, really take full advantage of that, in my opinion. I don't believe so on that front. The creative decision to not give Aang waterbending, in season 1 was interesting. I mean, I know my partner say, well, yeah, for him, waterbending would be super easy because it's kind of like airbending to an extent, like the fundamentals are there, which, well, yeah, I understand that. But at the same time, it's like, it's kind of giving Last Airbender movie vibes again, where like, there's a reason to why the main character doesn't learn this sort of thing till either the very end or even tap into it, because it could be a budget saving thing, or like they want to build up more suspense, or they just, want to do things a little bit differently. I really don't know what the case might be to why they ended up cutting out Aang actually learning at least the basics of waterbending in this season, but I think, them gonna try and I'm assuming they're gonna like do that off screen, just like make that like, oh, we spent a couple months in the northern water region just training Aang, and then we're back on the road. I'm like, yeah, that's a good way to like kind of get the actors to like grow up a little bit, explain the go ahead, but like, I don't know, I feel like you kind of you shot yourself in the foot, like not seeing those development traits, as much as like, yeah, we have Katara also learning how to do it as well. So I guess they didn't want to double dip, but at the same time, again, like, all these characters are important. You are going to get different circumstances, different developments out of them. But like, yeah, I feel like that was one of my biggest gripes, them cutting out the waterbending part for Aang. I think like that didn't really work out so well for them. Some of the things, like I felt like some things were changed for the better, like I remember at the end of the season, Sokka does not have a rivalry with the rivalship with the fiance of the woman he kind of falls in love with towards the end. They already broke up. They already like, because of a vision dream. They're like, oh, I saw you in a dream, so like I'm going to marry you, or I'm going to be with you. So like it's kind of weird. But I like the friction. I like, there being even like a little bit of like suspense, a little bit of like, of the dramatics going into it, and maybe that's just a me thing by that point, but I would have liked to see that, personally speaking, than what we got. Again, like I said before, adaptions are going to be hit or miss. There are going to be things you love about the adaptation. There's going to be some things you wish they kind of kept over from the original works. That was my case here. I felt like, yeah, there was definitely some things that they did absolutely phenomenally better than the animated show and the original movie, and then there's some things where like, Yeah, that should have been one of those rare things you should have kept, but you didn't. So we kind of have to like level the playing field and just kind of accept what we did get, and that's just kind of how it ends up being by that sort, because you just that's just it. That's all you have to say about it, and then you kind of accept it and move on, so to speak. Um, Budgetary wise, again, like it's a TV show, live action show. You're very much limited to what you can do. Appa and Momo are just not that prevalent in this one, and I do understand why. It's a budget thing. It's so expensive to like animate these two, a gigantic beast and then a small lemur. I know it's very difficult, but like it's one of those things, like if you're like they don't even find a good workaround around. It's just like, okay, Ong's parked way over there, and we don't need him until we gotta fly. Which again, can serve as the role. It can be a good explanation, but for me, it's like they're part of the show. Like you get to build dynamics with them because they're part of the group. They're part of the team. They're there with them every step of the way. So like they are important. So then like ditching them to the side to like so that they can do it so they can save money on the animation again. I understand it from an extent, but at the same time, it's like one thing I just really, I want to see more Momo. I definitely want to see more Momo. I think that was like my utmost gripe with the show, that we just didn't get enough of that, and that ending like fake out was just not. I knew it was a fake out from the moment I saw it, but at the same time, it's like it just wasn't earned. It just was not earned whatsoever. It's like unless you already have pre-existing knowledge of him from the animated stuff, you were not going to get much of a development out of him. Personally speaking, and again, I'm talking about a CGI lemur, but still, he is a character. Momo is a character on the show, so that pretty much counts. But for me, personally speaking, even like I say all these things I didn't quite like about it, I still enjoyed it, mind you. I still thought it was a very serviceable, very entertaining show that Netflix has pieced together. Definitely, it's not the next One Piece. It definitely is not going to be that straightforward, that very honest to God, closest to the original source material adaptation we can get. But they definitely do their job. They definitely do pay respect to that world. They bring those characters to life, but in their own ways, and in a way that honors what the original creators and the original people behind those characters worked on. And I feel like that was worth the investment, worth the time, and definitely it is worth our investment in going to the future when we do come back for the next 2 seasons, as they continue to tell this version of the story in their own eyes and words. So with that being said, I would recommend you watch the show. Binging it wise, give it a weekend, space it out a little bit, definitely have something to talk about. Definitely it's not one of those like spend your entire day watching this. I did it, but I don't think that was the case. I definitely would have liked it to split this up into 2 separate days, but it just didn't really work out in that logic. But yeah, no, let me know in the comments below what you think of Avatar: The Last Airbender from Netflix. I would love to hear your thoughts down below about it. I would love to talk to you about it. But I believe that's going to do it for me today, everyone. So for otherwise, it's been What's the Tea from ActionX, reviewing the first season of Avatar: The Last Bender in a spoiler-filled capacity, if you want to know what we're doing. Also on What's the Tea, beside these one-off reviews. Normally, we would be doing the rookie episode reviews each and every week, but we're on hiatus on that. We would also be about to be starting up our Walker episode reviews, but we're not quite there just yet. But if you want to see more from us, more cool videos such as this one, please subscribe to youtube.com/ActionXvideo. Ring that bell for notification when our next video is live. Like, favorite, share, and ring that bell. But until we see each other again, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe out there, and as well, to be good to each other. Peace out.